Hey everyone, it's Lenny from Tradable Bits. Welcome back to another episode of What's Kraken. We have a fantastic guest today, Amir Zanozi, president and co-founder of Zoop, which is a world-class audience data and activations platform designed to give marketers a real-world understanding of their consumers. So Amir's here today to talk about data, influence, and the elements that go into capturing an audience. And more specifically, we're talking about the athlete influence and sponsor evaluation. So Amir, take us back to the beginning, if you wouldn't mind. Can you tell us a bit about your background, how you ended up founding Zoom, and your journey working within the intersection of sports and data?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Lenny, and great to be on the show, especially on the day where you guys got announced as one of the most innovative companies in sports and in fan and sponsorship engagement from Sports Pro. So
thank you so much.
Kudos to you guys on that. The story. Okay, so this is going to take a few beers to actually tell the whole story. So I'll kind of move it fast and save it for an in-person. Is that beer in that drink? But no, I'm just kidding. But
we need it sponsored, right? It should be sponsored too.
That's true. That's true. We would value that for you. So basically, the origins of Zoom is we worked within an agency, the co-founders and I, Ali, Nick, myself, and we did stuff actually with the State Department. We were doing things in federal, building video games, looking at speeches before, during, and after on social, impacting diplomacy in the US, how that was reacting. And there wasn't any tools that really allowed us to report on that. So we ended up creating things. We used developer time that were within the agency that they weren't on an assigned project. Ali saw what we were doing, loved it, and wanted us to stop using his developers, that were supposed to be on other projects. And he's like, nights and weekends, the building's yours. If you build something, it takes off, I'll fund you guys. We'll split this off and run it. And so that became the obsession. And in the beginning, we were around fan engagement. And so we did activations, we did fan walls, social media, tag board, different people were in that space back in the day. Postano, I think you remember.
Yeah,
Mass relevance.
We riffed on so many of these things when we first met with each other back at these sports conferences and stuff like that too. They're a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah. And it was exciting. I mean, we did a lot of cool work in Coca-Cola's offices, Instagram's offices, but, it never really, took off because it was on and off event basis work. And one thing that was consistent about us is we always kind of listened to our customers, but that's how we started working with sports teams. They wanted the fan engagement, the jumbotron, center field activation. Engage the content. We got into some first party data capture stuff, the things that you guys were you guys are amazing at, and then we got into audience analytics. Basically, we found every way that didn't work for us until we got an opportunity with one of the NFL teams that came to us and was like, Amir, we want to use you guys to track our content, not for marketing, for partnerships. And we're like, that's not us. Like, are you really going to say no to us? And so we were like, okay, let's give it a shot, right? What's the worst going to happen? And we were amazing at it. And so we're like, okay, hold on. We're on to something. We did something with MSG, did a really great job on that. And so we decided, or late 18, early 2019, let's pivot the platform. Let's go after partnerships. And so we built it out so that we could ingest live data, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and run AI modeling for the logos. And then later we built in the objects so that we can, pull in, is that the court? Is that the jersey? Is that the basketball hoop? And then we can do attribution between logos and assets using the performance of the social content to say what the value is using rate cards.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's totally like what the industry is, been looking for. People trying to be able to figure out how to value these sorts of things. And I'm literally imagining you guys in your office doing the Ross pivot thing and the friends. And it's like, pivot, like this thing's going on. So like that's great because like I think you guys really found the right area in the niche to develop. And I think we followed a lot of the same models in that sense where we listen to our partners and we continue to evolve our platform in that way to serve, the industry better.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, I'm looking at what you guys did during the pandemic with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and just the amazing activations to keep fans engaged at home when they were in front of their TVs, when they couldn't go back to the stadiums. And you just constantly have to be listening to your customers, adapting to the landscape. At the end of the day, our job is to make life easier for our customers, right? And you have to obsess over what those pain points are. And the one thing for us was our audience analytics. We realize impressions, engagements, they're not created equal. The value is different depending on who is in that audience. And so that's been something that's been big for us. And we've, collected an audience database, 345 million profiles, no creepy shit, just aggregated, anonymized, fan-centric, right? And then we use their behavior, who they follow, what's in their bio, to really understand what their interests are, what their affinities are, just psychographic stuff in a very privacy by design way. And so headed a game on that. Cookies got taken away and all that kind of stuff. iOS 15 came out, so that allowed us to kind of be, we always kind of like look at what's coming regulation wise to kind of stay ahead of that. And that's, you just constantly have to just be monitoring what's going on inside your world, outside your world, and just kind of build towards longevity.
That's totally it. Finger on the pulse of what's happening, and knowing where the curve is happening. No different than we focused on first party data a long time ago, standing on a soapbox talking about it, and now
huge.
It's everyone's talking about it. Oh, we need first party data. It's like, yeah, we've been talking about it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Get on board, right? So
I mean, you really, as an organization, you need to have it, and it's so absolutely critical. And you get your ticketing data, but you need to understand who your audience is that can't come to the games, right? That is not physically there. And that's why you guys build these great digital activations to entice people to share that information. And they get better quality engagement as a result of it.
Yeah. And so you said something earlier that was a really good segue into our sort of next topic is you're saying not everything is created equally, right? So how you value one brand versus another, or some influencer or that. So it turns out you guys published this awesome report in partnership with a few other folks. Can you tell us maybe about the 50 most marketable report that you guys launched recently?
Yeah, no. So I feel like Sports Pro owes us, two different articles we're bringing up for them. Greenfly did a report with them. They're the presenting partner. They brought us in to do a ranking of the conversation and understand, okay, we want to bring in the top 50 athletes. How can you guys put a unique spin on this so we don't see the same report with Ronaldo, Messi, and LeBron, just as the top as always? And so we took this as a moment to kind of show off what we can do in the audience analytics. So we created basically a weighted scoring system. And with this, we took one side of it was just social media performance. So frequency, reach, engagement. So just the standard stuff you'd see in any sort of rankings, understanding, how popular these people are and engagement that they read. We took 7,000 athletes, a whole bunch of them, right? And we analyzed all of their content from the beginning of January 1st on 2021. So it's only within this year that we kind of pulled this content. And then the second category that we weighted against, that was audience metrics. So we did fan demographics. We looked at if they're Gen Z, if they're millennial, if they're women, right? Because women hold the purchasing power for consumer products, and 80% of them is made by women. And as far as the fan attractiveness was the second kind of category that we created, and we looked at, okay, do they have affinity for music, gaming, global affairs? Are they, do they care about what's going on in the world? And then luxury goods was another one. So we tried to get the audience that lots of brands are really going after, especially these CPG products. And what that did was it really changed the entire dynamic of the rankings. And this was, before we posted, we're like, guys, are we really going to do this? Because it's 2021. Well overdue to have 3 women as the top 3 athletes in the world with most marketable. And it comes down to the definition of marketability. And for us, it was the audience that we felt made the most purchases. And so we had Simone Biles number 1, Naomi Osaka number 2, and Ashlyn Harris is number 3. And by the time people listen to this, the webinar will all be out. We're going to do a webinar with Ashlyn Harris, which is super exciting to have an athlete on there and kind of talk about. And really the perspective from women's sports is, they don't look at themselves. They're not getting paid for being an athlete. They're getting paid for what they stand for and the purpose behind the causes that they stand for. And Ashlyn's just, if you look at her content, it's phenomenal, especially on Instagram, and their ability and female. And what's interesting is the two first athletes are, solo athletes. They're not team sports, right? So Simone gymnastics, Naomi in tennis, but yeah. And then you got a goalie serve. But anyways, we ranked it, Ronaldo's number 6, Messi's 12, LeBron's 24. We put it out. Some people gave us hell for it. It's usually the fans that don't really get the business components on the back end of it. But then we got a lot of outreach from people being like, we see what you're doing and this is awesome. And so now essentially we could take every single brand, and no ranking should be the same for every brand, right? If you're Coke, it's different than your Pepsi, right? Because you're trying to reach different audiences, trying to reach different types of people. Maybe it's the same people and you want to do the rankings in that way. But it's a new way of sort of looking at things, and we want to change how people look at partnerships and how they look at the results and say quality matters. The people that are behind this is different, and you need to account for that. And usually everyone's just going for the big impressions number, big engagements number, but I think this is going to really push us to be a little bit more thoughtful about how we interact, how we engage in the content that we create for that audience.
No, that's fantastic. So really, can you tell people where they can go to check out that report?
Yeah, it's on sportspromedia.com. And so it'll be, it's on the top 5 reports right now. And it's Simone Biles named the world's most marketable athlete for 2021. So we'll get the link, and maybe you guys can put it in the show notes and they can click on it, but excited to get that out. And Scott Lewis from our team, Scott, Nick, Rob, Sydney, one of our interns, they really delivered on this. And it was really important for us to put together something that showcased women's sports with the same respect that men's sports get. So really just excited about it.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to read and look at it from a different perspective. Seeing LeBron not even in the top 10, not even the top 20 was some people were like, wait a minute, but it makes sense because we're looking at audience sections, and like you sort of said, every brand's a little bit different in how they look like in their audience. But looking at it maybe at a category level where you have a lot of the same brands competing each other, but looking within finance or CPG or luxury or whatever it is, it gives you a new way of quantifying it in a different sense.
You got it instantly and faster than most people, Lenny. I mean, it really is. It's that, we want to have this stat so it's unique and it's really going to make a difference. And now LeBron's going to be number 1 on a lot of people's lists. Might be number 1 on my list, to be honest with you. But when it becomes the marketable and that audience that we were ranking, to that audience, it was Simone, it was Naomi, it was Ashlyn. It was, and you can read the whole list there, but it's going to change. And we just wanted to provoke that conversation. We wanted to change it up. We knew we were going to get, fans that were going to be like, this is crap, where's, Messi number 1, PSG and everything around. They're all great. They're all amazing. It's impactful that they do, but it really goes to show you where they really make the impact. Because Ashlyn doesn't have a lot of followers, right? But when it comes to the fan engagement rates that she has with her fans and the frequency that she's engaging with them, it's unbelievable. So I'm excited to kind of push on this. And we work with brands, we work with teams and leagues, and each one it's going to want to view this in different ways. But, at the end of the day, the fans are the oxygen that you and I, this entire ecosystem lives off of, and we want to do right by them. And how do we do that? We focus on the quality, and I get eye rolls every time I say this, but honestly, at the end of the day, niches get riches, and the more niche your message is, and the more personalized it can be, the more successful it's going to be with that audience that resonates with it. And so And there's a lot of great people in the space that, PLL, rocking theirs. I'm a sucker for Wu-Tang Clan and Method Man. So when they came out with this collab, I had the rocket. For those watching for those listening, I'm just wearing a PLL shirt with the collab that they did. But, it's exciting to see like how content is becoming viewed as commerce and how they're coming into the game and different people are coming in thinking of new ways where you got your mate, MLSEs creating video games with you guys, engaging fans in that way. Like that is the future, right? Creating content that really just connects with people and keeps their attention. And there's a lot of great people, challenger, your normal names, the big heavyweights, but then also challengers like the NWSL, like the PLL that are really capturing attention in these ways.
I think you really nailed it. Like the engagement is the key metric that we want to look at. It's don't worry about the vanity metrics of we talked about. Everyone looks at how many followers you have. We don't know if half of those are bots or whatever it is, right? So the engagement is the important piece by far. So quality over quantity. You nailed it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And if you can tell more about the audience that's engaging with the content, even better. But like you said, there's the vanity metrics. And, unfortunately, we are in an industry where there's an old guard and there's an old way of doing things, and they want to be number one at everything, no matter what. But I think painting a clear picture and having clarity around this of where your impact is being met and where are the results being had. Every ranking that you look at, it's going to be unique to what you're ranking against. And totally. I think people are asking more and more about this and getting more and more sophisticated. So it's just exciting, and keeping that engagement is absolutely first and foremost the most important thing. I mean, that pause in live sports, oh man, was that awful. And it just gives you a sense of how important sports is to our culture. And that's probably why all these investors are getting into this entire ecosystem. They see the value.
Yeah. And like you sort of said, as the old guard switching and people are opening their eyes into the new way of looking at things, they're starting to realize that, women's sports is so much more powerful from a marketable standpoint to reaching the right audiences and things like that. And I know you've been a huge advocate for this as well. So where do you see some of the behavior or the how people are viewing that changing over the last year?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. And there's a couple things, right? There's one, we're looking at the front office in diversity and how do we draw change there. I mean, I love how you guys put diversity as a forefront over at Tradable Bits, and we do as well. I'm on the board for women in sports tech, and just having more women, the more diverse the input is, the better the output's going to be. Right. And we want as much diversity cognitively in our team so that we're hearing everything right before something goes out. And so we're seeing more of that in sports, and the quality is getting better and better. And I think diversity has a lot to do with that. Secondarily, women's sports, I mean, the way their fans fan is so different from traditional male sports. You might hear my son in the background, by the way, but apologies for that. But as far as how they fan, it's very similar to esports, which is really interesting, where they celebrate the sponsorship deals that are made. You saw the NBA, bring Michelob Ultra as their premier partner with when they went into the bubble. Fans were, sharing content that was not the most flattering for Michelob Ultra. But then, you see Budweiser become the partner for NWSL, and you can't even buy one at some of these bars during the championship games because they show their passion through their wallet, and they know how important it is to show support back to the partners that showed them. And so, we just saw the highest attended game at NWSL with almost 28,000 attendees when they finally moved from a stadium that only held 7,000 to 72,000. It's just the beginning. Viewership is up in WNBA, more higher than ever. And then we also did an analysis at one point over the summer where we looked at, okay, let's look at, the shut up and dribble stuff that was like pushed towards LeBron, get out of politics. Well, WNBA, NWSL, women's sports is one of the most forefront when it comes to jumping into these social causes and trying to drive change. And we looked at their fan engagement rates whenever they use social cause terms like BLM or what have you. We collected and tagged all this content. And more not every time, but most times in every single league, male and female, the fan engagement rate actually was significantly higher when they were involved in social causes. So, looking at the fans and how they engaged, they wanted to see their athletes, be a part of this. So it's, women's sports has done so many amazing things. And I think we're just in the beginning. We're in the first inning when it comes to the impact that it can have. Michelob Ultra is doing a campaign right now, Save the Post, and engage with it. I think we're going to see a lot more brands getting into the space. It's honestly, and this is me just being selfish and it's the best deal in town. I mean, like, you can get some of these best sponsorship deals with these women athletes. And because they haven't gotten the proper, infrastructure to do this, give them a little bit of light and they're going to absolutely deliver.
Yeah, and you're getting it on the ground floor. You're getting like a steal in value for dollar when it comes to that right now. Shout out to the Canadian women's soccer team for Olympic gold there. Like, sorry, bud. No.
No.
The
The U.S. had their time in the limelight, and we love that competition, and certainly love the NHL Tampa Bay Lightning winning. But for as far as just, I mean, it's just amazing what we're seeing in the industry, 2 in male and female sports, and I think 3 is just the power of the athletes. I mean, you saw Simone, you saw both Naomi stand up for mental health and really take control of their platform. And that's never been done before. Now, other athletes have been taking control, right? You see Harden demanding trades, and NBA is a little bit different than some of the other sports, but it's certainly, we're in a time that, everyone says the new normal and all this and that. And we're going into a new reality, really. It's so different. And we're using data to justify it moving forward. And the impact has never been more important, and sports has never been more important to our cultures. It's just fascinating to watch and be a part of it.
Okay, cool. Closing out the last couple things. You mentioned WISP before, Women in Sports Tech. Maybe tell a little bit about that. I usually also like to ask our guests about any advice for students. So I think that ties in really nicely with the fellowship program and other things like that. So maybe tell people a little bit about WISP and what it's all about.
Yeah, so several years ago, Lenny, we had a ratio that was not the best between male and female on our team, and we would use we would always say, like, we don't get a lot of applicants for not a lot of women's sports, and we got tired of that, right? And we reached out to a number of organizations. WISP, Women in Sports Tech, was one of the first ones to respond, and I started engaging with them, joined their advisory board, became a board member, and we got involved. It was just, I fell in love with this group. Mary Lou McFarland and the founder and the entire team, just phenomenal people. And they have a fellowship program, and every year they get more students into programs, and whether it's traditional sports or technologies like myself or yours and so forth. And so last year we had 2, this past year we had 1, and just the most amazing, talented individuals. There was one that previously had worked with you guys, and she was, interacting with her. I didn't want to name her name, not knowing if that was cool or not on the podcast. But yeah, so, like, I mean, she's just, the talent is absolutely, and the impact that they made. And so if you're a student, you're looking at getting one, if you're a woman, a female or male, get involved with WISP, amazing organization. And then the program for women to get into these different programs is just the opportunities. I mean, Michael Jordan got on one of the webinars with one of the fellows, which I was incredibly jealous of at the Nike. Nike's one of the partners, NBA, WNBA, and all that. And then 2 is just, reach out, get involved, engage. We work with a lot of different students in student programs in schools. And that's been phenomenal for us as well. Columbia, GW, San Diego State, number of fantastic programs, and we actually hired one that we worked at SDSU, Claire. She's just been phenomenal, and we're always trying to get our data out there to the university students to just bring a next generation, invest into that, so that the next generations come in more data savvy, more data hungry, data driven, and it's been just amazing to watch it all.
Awesome. Okay, well, really appreciate your time with us. I'm going to close out with one last question. So, Amir, what is your definitive fan moment?
My definitive fan moment. Oh man. So this might be more of an anti-fan moment, but I've lived my entire life being a fan of the Washington football team from the area. I'm that kind of millennial. It speaks about where I'm from and how I was raised. And there was a moment where the New York Giants retweeted me, and they were a client, and so it's not totally unexpected. But for that moment, I was a complete Giants fan. I was just absolutely, I got listened to. I was engaged with. I was loved, right? And so for years of fandom, for a moment, I was like, I'm a Giants fan. Go Giants. Go Eli. Go Barkley. Right? I was just like all about it. And for that, it shows me how powerful engagement is when you have platforms like these. At the end of the day, sports is stronger than most people's relationship with their own religion, right? And you get tattoos of the teams and stuff like that. It's just absolutely, there's nothing like it. And if you're engaging with your fan base and you're making them feel important, you can change your entire world. And that's my fan moment. It was just that moment of, even though it's a moment where like years of fandom was put at risk, I still got the Sean Taylor jersey, right, and go to the games. But at the end of the day, that was just such an important moment for me.
Oh, that's great. Well, Amir, I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. If people want to hit you up on Twitter, where are they going to find you?
Yeah, at Zonozi, Zonozi, everywhere on social. That's me, and then Zoomph is ZOOMPH.
Perfect. Yeah, you might see some of our conversations on Twitter about photobombs and Google Glasses and all some random things that we tweeted at each other. But thank you so much for being a guest on What's Cracking today. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Lenny.